What is the ruling on watching sports where the awra may be exposed? What is the ruling on watching sports where the awra may be exposed? Now, here again, we have several points to address. For the full response, I have a written question, or rather a written answer, called What is the ruling on playing and watching football? Under Shafi'i Fiqh and seekersguidance.org. So the few points that we look at, the basic answer is, at the end of the day, there are several factors that could make this haram. But without those factors, watching or playing an innocent game that has no intrinsic unlawful aspect is generally permissible. However, this must be seen in light of a number of other important points. The one is the ruling concerning games in the first place. It's critically important to understand that games are not unrestrictedly unlawful, right? Other than games involving prize money, beyond that, every game played by two or more people that relies on luck, conjecture, guessing, this would be unlawful, whether money is stipulated or not. Every game not in the above category is permissible if there is no money therein. Any things mentioned above that are permissible become unlawful if they prevent one from performing a religious or this worldly duty. So, while you can say watching soccer in a general sense, not saying there's no problematic or unlawful aspects there, is permissible, still, it can become unlawful if it distracts you from Allah to the point where you neglect your deeni duties or your worldly duties. The next point of discussion is, now that we understand games or the rules pertaining to games, we also ask, what about watching sports? Now, there are no specific texts within the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that prohibit watching sports matches. We do know that the Prophet ﷺ allowed or facilitated, in fact, for Sayyidah Aisha to watch a performance of sorts, of a sword display with some Abyssinians in Masjid al-Nabawi. Still, this must be done within the confines of the Sharia. It would be unlawful if the match includes any prohibited actions, such as watching immodestly dressed players and deliberately watching them as such, and if it causes the neglect of religious obligations. If you spend a reasonable amount of time in lawful entertainment, that is not blameworthy or sinful. But now the issue is, so look, in a game of, say, soccer or tennis, the game may be innocent, there may be no unlawful factors, and that's tricky in and of itself because often sports in the modern world is laden with traps. So you have explicit material posted in between or played as ads in between. Often you have cheerleaders and people dressed scantily being on display very deliberately, being drawing people's attention to them. And you may even have advertisements of khamr and the like. So all of this is undoubtedly unlawful. Now, assuming that all of that is taken away, then the rule is, it is unlawful, it is haram to look at the opposite sex with lust. Bas, whether they are properly dressed or whether they are not properly dressed, improperly dressed. So if, for example, a man sees a woman or the image of a woman and she's wearing hijab and he looks at her with attraction and with desire, it is obligatory for him to look away. It is haram for him to look. This is whether she is properly dressed or not, whether she's wearing the hijab or not. It is permissible to look at the face or hands of the opposite sex without lust. One may not actively look at uncovered parts of the nakedness or awra of the opposite sex, and in the case of women, this includes their hair. But with all that said, unintentionally seeing something, so you're walking in the street, you're driving, and there are people walking and there are people driving, and all the time you are seeing people uncovered. Assuming you're living in a non-Muslim society, you will see women not wearing the hijab, or their necks are exposed, or their arms are the arms are exposed, or their legs are exposed. If you look with desire, that is unlawful, whether she's covered or not. But if you see accidentally and you don't look deliberately with desire repeatedly, then this is not unlawful. This is not unlawful for as long as you're not looking with desire, and Allah knows best. Simultaneously, one should be honest regarding whether one looks with lust or not, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows full well of the sly glances of the eyes and whatever the hearts conceal, as He says in Surah number 40, verse number 19. Now, then we have to ask, okay, so after all of that and understanding all the pitfalls, is it a good idea? And the answer is definitely not. It's never going to be a good idea. For the person who wants to safeguard the iman, not expose themselves to temptation, not expose themselves to sin at all, and avoid the pitfalls that may invite them down the road, to something even worse, then it's not a good idea. And ideally, you should refrain from these actions entirely, because they have so many pitfalls that you have to avoid in order to ensure that you're not breaking Allah's law. The reality, however, is that for many people, they would see this as even too difficult to follow through with. And they'd prefer to have a way to, navigate the pitfalls and avoid that to the best of their ability. At the end of the day, we can't make that which is halal haram, and we can't make that which is haram halal. The problem we have with a sports show, for example, is that it's not one thing. It's a whole combination of things, and you often don't know what's coming next. So I leave that to you to decide exactly how you want to navigate that. And if you want more details, there are more details and more thorough answers available on this point on seekersguidance.org, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.